This is 2021. This is the Betfred Super League. Be ready.
Got me here. It took a big chunk out of me. Bleeding. It's bleeding. Oh no, it's bleeding. The thing just ripped me ear off. What do you think?
Hello there, we are back. A warm welcome to another Eddie and Stevo, the podcast, sponsored by Betfred, of course, and our first show for a couple of weeks. Let's just say staff summer holidays mean that we've not been with you for a fortnight, but I trust that those of you who watched Betfred's The Last Tackle podcast last week will have enjoyed seeing Stevo and me together again for the first time on TV in 5 years. Stevo, it was fantastic to be back with you.
I'm not so sure about that, Eddie, but if you say so, I'm quite happy with it. Look, you and I, we've always said one thing. Do not try to upset anybody. Do not come out with BS. Do not do this, that, and the other. And you know that I am still talking the same rubbish that I did for 20-odd years.
Absolutely, I do. Absolutely. Look, this week, we're back to normal at our usual home. And as you can hear, Stevo's waiting to talk about all things rugby league. So let's get stuck into it. Stevo, 4 of the top 6 places in the Betfred Super League are now sorted. It's all down to this last weekend. Catalan, Saints, Warrington, Wigan, they're all in the playoffs. Who do you think will be joining them? It's either Cass and Leeds, or Cass and Hull KR, or Leeds and Hull KR, or Cass. Well, look, the permutations are endless. Who do you think's going to get there?
Well, I think the favourites will be a surprise Hull Kingston Rovers. They've really got themselves into a good team effort, and I reckon they'll shock quite a few of them.
You think they'll win at Leeds? You think they'll win at Leeds?
Yep, I really do. I don't think Leeds has... they've been so up and down, mainly because of the injury crisis. Now, I know all the teams have had that injury problem, but I just think that Leeds, coming to the end of the season... I think it would be difficult for Agar to get them up for this one. Whereas the Rovers, they are doing it very well indeed.
Can you call them the Rovers? Because they had a massive, or they're going to have a massive marketing ploy to turn Rovers into Robins, which they've been for 140 years. They're going to be called Hull KR, as I understand it, dropping the word Rovers. I don't know whether that's right or wrong. They've taken the crowns off the badge. They've put cartoons of Robins on the badge. Can we call them Rovers from now on?
Well, I think most of the fans would like to say they're Rovers. If they want to change it to Robins, I mean, they always sing about it when, Bob bobbing along and all that sort of thing. So look, a lot of the fans are steeped in the history. A lot of people are a little bit disappointed that you've done that. Remember Wigan? They brought in a new badge. Hull Kingston Rovers are doing exactly the same. The designer, to me, has done a fine job, because when you look at it to start with, it looks as though it's still a crown.
Yeah.
And when you look deep into it, you can see that it's a robin. So I can't see anybody really being upset by it as much as remember at Wigan, when a lot of people thought that it looked very, very similar to a coffee house.
Yes, I remember that. I remember that well. But listen, this is rugby league. Everybody gets upset about something during the course of the week, the month, the year and the season. Right, you've got Hull Kingston Rovers beating Leeds on Friday, Castleford at Warrington on Thursday. Now, this is a must-win for Castleford Tigers, because if they lose, well, Leeds and Hull KR on Friday won't really mean a thing other than where they'll be playing in the semi-finals the following week. Cass at home to Warrington, rather, on the Thursday night. They've got to win. Simple as that, to use somebody's phrase.
Yep, and they've just announced that Shenton will retire at the end of this season. So therefore, they want the big impact. Not only that, but playing at home in front of those loyal fans, they will want to give Shenton a nice farewell, etc., etc. And why not? He's been a great ambassador for our game, good player, played for England. And all I can see, in my mind, is that Warrington will find it very, very difficult. And they don't seem to play away all that well, Warrington, at times.
Well, it's a tight little field, isn't it, down there at Weldon Road at the Jungle. As you say, it's the last home match of the season, come what may, for Castleford. It's the last match for Michael Shenton. It'll be an emotional night, won't it? Bound to be.
Yeah, well, of course. And let's not forget that the coach is going as well.
Yes.
So when you roll it all into one, it's like, hey, come on, boys, this has got to be good. We've got to give something back to the fans. And there's no better way to do that is to then roll over Warrington.
Let's just talk about Castleford for a minute or so. New coach Lee Radford moves in during the winter. I'm wondering what he's going to be left with, Stevo. Michael Shenton, as we said, latest one to announce retirement. Jesse Senilifeo is going. Oliver Holmes, Peter Matauti are going with Powell to Warrington. Grant Millington is retiring. The list goes on. Castleford, to me, sound like 2022. They're in transition already.
Well, I'm sure that the coach that's taking over is fully aware of that. It isn't a case of that perhaps it's been dropped on him. Though, having said that, a few of those people that are leaving have only been announced, say, 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's going to make it difficult. But the one thing about Castleford is that they always seem to find some new stars, young kids. They give them the opportunity, and they're very loyal to the Castleford Tigers. So you never know. At least it gives the opportunity for someone else to take it over. Look, you can't be a star all your life. When it comes to the end of it, you get forgotten. And it's amazing how soon all these players get forgotten. And I'm glad at times because you look at it and say, look, it's going to give some young kid an opportunity to make it into the big time. And let's face it, we want more and more youngsters coming into our game.
Indeed. I love that. You can't be a star all your life. You pack up your day job and you go and do a podcast. Is that what you're telling me now?
Yeah, but the thing that I'm surprised about it, doing it with you, Ed, is that we're not getting paid. I was born and bred in Yorkshire. Oh,
I know, it must kill you. That must kill you. It really must. Okay, right. So let's just sum up that as far as you're concerned, 5 and 6 will belong to Castleford and Hulkingston Rovers. Leeds will miss out. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's a contentious question for you. Catalan Dragons, top of the pile, the league leaders, shield winners for the very first time in rugby league land. Who gets the greater recognition, though, this year? The Dragons or the Saints, judged by many, including you, to be already the team of the year? Now, remember, the Dragons, that Golden Point win in Newcastle. Will they get the recognition that the Dragons deserve, do you think?
I probably think that the Catalan coach will get Coach of the Year. It wouldn't surprise me if the Man of Steel is from Catalan. But the most important thing is who is going to win the grand final. I think Catalan will make the grand final, and I think St. Helens will win the grand final. I've been saying that throughout this season. We made it, 3 or 4 weeks ago when we were sort of on the Betfred. Sorry, it was only last week on the Betfred show in regards to the fact that it was a good kick up the backside for St. Helens to be beaten by Catalan. And you saw that with the way that St. Helens just came out. 40 points to 6 against Leeds. Leeds had a lot of youngsters in there, a lot of injuries, as I mentioned before. And that's why I think Leeds will miss out on the playoffs. But St. Helens, their play reminds me so much of what we're witnessing down in Australia. Now, that's a big, big ask for any club in this country because they are playing outstanding. And I got quite a few messages from Australia that they would love to have had Walmsley. Now, remember, about 12 months ago, there was talk about Walmsley being chased by a couple of Australian clubs. and they have been watching the way that he just completely took control in that game. And they are sad that they could not have Walmsley playing down under. I'm glad he's staying.
Well, me too. And he was outstanding last weekend. His runs, his defence, his attack, everything. It really came together for him. He gritted his teeth. Look, I asked you about Catalan Dragons, and here we are talking about St Helens. This is really, really unfair, isn't it? Because Catalan have only lost 3 of 22 games all year, most of them away from home. I think what you're saying is Catalan will only get the recognition they deserve, A, if they get to Old Trafford, but most importantly, A, if they win that grand final on October the 9th.
And that's all they're interested in. You know, they'll be quite happy if they do get a player, Man of Steel, because they've got the league leaders trophy. But deep down, they're fully aware, McNamara's fully aware, that there's only one way that they're going to get the recognition from anybody in this country, in England, in Great Britain, and of course in France, is if they win it. And quite frankly, I don't think that they have enough power in the forwards to match St Helens. And certainly St Helens, to my way, have got better three quarters.
Well, Catalan Dragons will maybe give us a glimpse of what's to come this weekend, because Steve McNamara is talking about it as being their first semi-final when they go to Wigan. I mean, here is an opportunity for the Dragons to really show their hand and say, look, we are contenders for Old Trafford on October the 9th. Never mind Old Trafford, we are contenders to be champions.
Yeah, of course they will. And I'm sure that they were saying to the players, St Helens 40, lead 6. They've come back. But it was the way that they came back. They played some outstanding rugby league football. It was a pleasure to watch it. Because let's face it, Eddie, there's quite a lot of teams this season. It's been 5 drives and a kick.
I know.
We are not producing what I say classical rugby league, especially in the three-quarter lines. There's only a few clubs that get me excited when the ball is moved about left, right, through. Support play. Far too often, throughout the entire 80 minutes, 5 drives and a kick. And that will not bring back the fans.
Well, I'm with you on that 100%. And, you know, we're both, I'm sure, really sorry to say this because we're huge fans of the game. Both of us are. But you're right. 5 drives, then a booming high kick is not the way to attract new fans, new television companies, new television viewers, new sponsors. It's not the way the game should be played.
You're right. But the biggest problem is, how are we going to do that? Do we have to have a big shake-up? At the moment, right, we're just on the verge, hopefully, of the RFL and Super League getting their heads together and creating one organisation. Now, I know that they've got a working party. Ralph Rimmer has pulled together Hetherington, the likes of Hetherington and McManus, who McManus wanted to break away and then changed his mind. Now, Hetherington has made it clear right from the start they should not break away from the RFL. And I am pleased that Hetherington is on that working party, because something has to be done. Something has to go and break it and say, we've got to start thinking about new ideas, bringing in new sponsors, etc. and so forth, because we are being left behind.
Well, I noticed that your name's not involved in this working group to plot the way forward. You know, they are going to consider the game's events calendar, the competition structures, fans, TV viewers' experience. How would you shape it? How would you reshape the game?
To me, a simple attitude. There is far too much self-interest. The people who run the game are connected to all the clubs. Now, you have Super League that broke away. Most of the people that decided on that move came from people who are owning the club or have been managing the club, etc. and so forth. We have got to make sure that people who are making the decision and making the approach to new sponsors, new television companies, radio stations, the media, etc., we get someone who can organise it. And there are a lot of people out there. Now, a lot of people have said, what about the Hearn family? They're involved with it. A lot of people criticise them and say, oh, well, they only do boxing and darts. What they've done for darts is quite amazing.
Incredible.
It is incredible. I mean, if you go to the audience, and I've been to quite a few darts competitions, and I'm in the audience, I can't see the board. It looks like it looks like a 20p piece, and I'm thinking to myself, and yet it's full, it's packed, and people watch it on TV.
Because it's an event, Stevo. It's an event, and I know you can't make every Super League game an event. But you've got to aim high, haven't you? You've got to aim high.
Well, I think snooker's a good knockout situation. I mean, snooker's been going for a long, long time. People love to it. Oh, and this is a semi-final, and will he get to the quarter-final? Don't miss out. Come and watch this. I mean, and the media that they get. I mean, for years and years and years, especially in the national dailies, we're lucky to get 5 paragraphs, if that.
And the common denominator on all this, when you talk about snooker, darts, and boxing, the common denominator is the Hearns, Barry and Eddie. Now, they were mooted to becoming or being approached to come into rugby league a long, long time ago. But somebody like Barry or Eddie Hearn will want a piece of the action. They're not going to do it because they're rugby league fans, are they?
Of course, that's what I'm saying. For far too long, we've had self-interest, and it has dragged us back into the mire, whilst other sports are going berserk. I mean, you look at the Olympic Games. Who would have thought that so many outside of what we classified as sport have been introduced? Rock climbing. Now, you can't tell me that since 1895, we could not have established something which was ingrained into us, and we should never, ever have lost it. But for some unknown reason, because of a lot of things, mostly through self-interest, is that we're lagging behind.
We're obviously talking about Super League here because that's the headline act. The Championship clubs and the League One clubs, they're concerned that they may be left behind long term. The Rugby Football League are trying to assure them and everybody else that they will be taking care of their interests.
You say that they're going to take care of interest, but I like to see things written down. It's called a contract. It's something that you can look at and say, hang on, you said this, you said that. It's easy to just announce, Championship and League One clubs, they're not involved in this working party, but don't worry, we'll look after your interests. So in my mind, that means all those Championship clubs, League One clubs, do they know the amount of money that they will get? Now, I'm having a wild guess. I'd say that they don't know. Now, how can you run any competition when you haven't got the basis of what's the amount of money that we can get? So we can build on that. And then we can go out and get our own sponsors to make it worthwhile. Now, you can't just come out with things like that. Now, I know Ralph Rimmer has been put under a lot of pressure, especially in the media and these websites. Now, people forget that if it wasn't for Ralph Rimmer, we wouldn't have got the loan from the government at a very, very awkward situation during the pandemic. No one seems to want to talk about that. Now, by saying that, they say, well, they haven't seen him. Well, if you haven't seen him and he hasn't been making quotes, let's hope he's been working. Let's hope he's been working really hard to get this working party going. And as I say, with people like Hetherington and McManus behind him, why shouldn't they come up with something that we can all agree to and get on with? But to just say, come out willy-nilly, don't worry, we'll look after your interests. That's not the way to run a business. You don't want to go out and buy a car and just say, well, I'll think about how much it costs later. You want to know what's happening.
Well, Ralph Rimmer won't be the first, he won't be the last CEO of the Rugby Football League to take a back seat and not always come to the microphone and come out in front of the cameras, will he? I mean, you have to take him and you have to believe in him that he is working hard to make sure the game does have a future. I wonder if they're looking, Stevo, across the channel, because French Rugby League seems to be booming. Catalan top of the Super League. Toulouse favourites to come up into Super League next year through the £1 million game. They're going to have a home semi-final on October the 2nd at Toulouse. And if they win that, they will stage the £1 million game. They will be their only 2 home games of 2021. It is a remarkable effort from Toulouse and from Catalan to finish top of both tables. And Toulouse particularly, 13 wins from 13 away games so far. Incredible.
I applaud both teams. I think they've done a fantastic job. And there is just, in my opinion, one single hope. The word hope. Because while we seem to be going round and round the roundabout, sometimes the wrong way, sometimes the right way, down in the south of France, they are doing it well. And it can only help because they will attract more and more people to play, more and more people to go and watch the games. And I congratulate both those sides. And I hope Toulouse do get there. But once again, self-interest. Now, Mr. Beaumont has been, shall we say, outrageous with some of his remarks, especially in the programme, which worked. It worked, didn't it? Lee came up with their second win of the season. And it was after Beaumont blasted his players in the programme. And now he's come out saying, I don't think it's right that if Toulouse get promoted because they've only played 13 games and Featherstone have played more. Now, why are we talking about self-interest? Surely we can just say, if at the top of the table, everybody knew it was going to be done on a percentage basis, not by how many games you're going to win. And I just can't believe that he's even suggesting there may be chance for a legal challenge. Well, that's just exactly what we need at this time in rugby league, doesn't it? We'll take something to court.
Well, how could he possibly do that? Because everybody knew the rules of the competitions, both of them, before a ball was kicked. I mean, I've got a lot of time for Derek, and he's worked tirelessly for Lee. He's done fantastic work for his charity. He was upset that the Lee players didn't support his charity and then went out and got hammered in the Magic Weekend. I can understand all that feeling of resentment. But then, as you say, his players come out last weekend and they beat Wakefield, who were on a roll. But you can't even consider a legal challenge, can you? I'm not a legal man, neither are you. You can't consider a legal challenge to a promotion, can you?
If that's the case, Eddie, then, we're not running the game, as we know. We don't think we run they're running the game in the right way. Everybody has his own point of view. But at a time when we are really, really trying to get things organised, to bring back Super League and to bring back RFL into one organisation, and here we have an owner of a club suggesting that if Toulouse do get promoted, then there could be a legal challenge. Is that the sort of thing we want from people who own clubs? No. And let's face it, self-interest comes up with big letters on the screen.
Listen, it would be fantastic for the south of France to have 2 teams in Super League. I understand that. Could you imagine what it'd be like when Toulouse play Catalan and Catalan entertain Toulouse in those 2 weekends? Be fantastic. But for the Super League club, Stevo, there are 10 left, and they will say, look, Catalan, at the moment, they can't travel because of the pandemic. Catalan bring nobody to away games. Toulouse will bring nobody to away games. I can see why they're a little bit concerned. That's 2 home games where reliance is purely and simply on home support.
If that was the case, Eddie, then why on earth did they invite 2 French teams to compete? if that was the case, if all those people who we're criticising for self-interest, if they didn't want that, why didn't they speak up at the end and said, listen, we don't want any French teams? No, because certain people wanted to spread the gospel. And of course, when you spread the gospel, and now that they're at the top, oh, it's a different situation. One person suggests that they shouldn't, legal challenge for making it into Super League. We've got another one, and everyone keeps saying it happened at Wembley, where only 20,000 fans came from the south of France. And they're saying, oh, it'll be a disaster if Catalan get to the grand final or whatever. And I'm thinking, hang on, these are the same people who said many, many years ago, yes, it'll be fantastic for rugby league. Then why are they changing their minds? Instead of nurturing it, instead of getting a situation. I know the pandemic's been a problem, but we're hoping, we've got all fingers, toes crossed, that we can overcome it, that we can live with it. We'll never beat it. It's like flu. We just have to have jabs to keep it at bay. But we've got to make sure that we're a tight-knit community. And let's hope, as I say, RFL, please, Super League, this working party, sort it out. Not 3 months later, not 6 months later. Get it done within a few weeks so that we can announce before the grand final, yes, we're going back as one unit. What a great opportunity that would be.
Well, it would be a great boost for the game, you're right. But back to the problem, my belief is if the grand final is so special, and indeed it is, shouldn't the grand final be nearing a sellout status now?
Yes,
Shouldn't the tickets all now be like gold dust now?
Yes. I'm with you.
Well,
and
why
also,
isn't it? Why isn't it?
And also, Eddie, if you look down, right, the Catalan game down in the south of France, that's sold out.
Yes.
Everybody wants to be part of that. And as I say, if we can overcome this pandemic and so we can travel, that let's make it, go down there for a weekend. Even when I was working, I'd go down there for 4 days, never mind the weekend. I used to love it down there.
I know you did.
But there's
the bars
another
and
thing.
The pubs and the restaurants down there have never recovered since
Too
you
true.
stopped going.
But on the serious note as well, I cannot believe that we are having games to be played on the day after the grand final. Maybe logistics that I don't realise and I don't know about. And if that's the case, then maybe I am talking rubbish. But to me, the end of the season, the chance for all the fans to see the last game of the season should be the biggest game, which is the grand final.
Yeah, I can't see an argument about that. I really can't. I mean, yes, it's been a difficult year. Yes, they've had to squeeze in fixtures midweek, weekends. Some teams have played 3 times in 8 days. I know all of the problems that the game has had. But I'm with you. A grand final, well, the 2 words say it all. The grand final. End. Full stop. Move on. Next season is coming. Finish.
Do you know, I tend to agree with you, Eddie.
Okay, look, we've made our point. We are on the verge of our playoffs here. Super League, Championship, League One. They're in the second week of their final series in the NRL in Australia. Manly, the Roosters, Penrith, of all clubs, and Parramatta, they all face the moments of truth this coming weekend.
They certainly do. And a lot of people were surprised that South Sydney put one over the Penrith Panthers. And there has been a huge debate on TV, a clash between both Cleary, the Penrith coach, Bennett, the South Sydney coach. Bennett came out midweek saying that Cleary was trying to influence the referees. Bennett said that it was Cleary that was trying to, and this spat was played out over TV, and mainly the finger has been pointed at Cleary, saying that it was sour grapes because they'd lost to South Sydney. Now, when you look through at the record, Eddie, no team in Penrith's situation in all the NRL playoffs have never gone on to win the grand final. So Penrith are up against it. My old club really are going to have to play very well. And of course, it's a great derby clash, isn't it?
Well, it is. Do you think they're going to make it? Do you think Penrith, I mean, you've been raising a glass to them all through this season. Penrith are by far and away the best team in the NRL. Do you think they're going to make it now?
I hope so. The week before, I'd say yes. But now the pressure is well and truly on. And it brings me back to something that it has never, ever convinced me, is that a lot of the Penrith players, they know they're not going to be at Penrith next season. And it happens down here, and it happens a lot in Australia, that when you come to the end of a season, when it's the most important part, is that the media announces Harry Bloggs moves from so-and-so to so-and-so next year. And I find it discouraging to think that so many players who are going into a semi-final or into a grand final know they're not going to be with that club next season. Now, maybe I'm old-fashioned, but if I've got my mind set on winning something, I want to be part of that something, not know that I'm not going to be there next year.
Yeah, but on the other side of the coin, remember when Leeds lost all those players, Peacock, Lulawai, Maguire, Burrow, at the end of that season, and they went to Old Trafford, Sinfield, they went to Old Trafford and they lifted and they won the grand final for their teammates to give them a send-off. It might work that way.
Well, you might be right, but it's not all that often, is it? I mean, I'm talking not just this week or last week. I'm talking like 3-4 months where the media, I mean, look, down in Australia, it's just like the football that we have here in this country, is that, you know, there's a situation whereby the media are just non-stop trying to find a story. I understand that. But some of the media are not interested in good stories, what we call, that we can read and be happy with. They want the bad stories. That's how the media has started to go these days. And I just don't think that we should have a situation in any sport unless end of the season, once the grand final's gone, Harry Bloggs, Willie Wilson, don't care, they're going. But that's after you've finished the season, not halfway before it, saying, well, he's no longer there. Because the crowd can accuse him of not trying, etc. And maybe they're right. Maybe this player said, well, I don't want to get an injury because I've got twice as much money because I've gone to another club.
You can't have it both ways, though, Stevo, can you?
I realise.
You can't bemoan the fact that we get 5 paragraphs, if we're lucky, in one paper, and then say, you know, the press in Australia are all over these stories like a rash, and they're getting some stuff that people want to read and they want to gossip about, you know?
Well, it's also a mixture of good gossip and very, very bad gossip. And they just never let it go.
If you analyse our gossip, are we good gossips or are we bad gossips? You and me, what do you think?
I'd say bad gossip.
It's like two old boys, this, across the garden fence.
Look, we give our opinion, and that's the one thing that I've always said about you, Eddie. I've never known you tell a lie. I'm going to take a deep breath on that one.
I think you're telling a lie now. And look, we'll be back with more good gossip and bad gossip and gossip the same time next week. It's always great, Stevo. Great to catch up again. And don't forget, the 5th of October, we're back on the Betfred Last Tackle podcast in vision, so people can take a photograph of the screen and put it on the mantelpiece and keep their kids away from the fire.
Listen, I will comb my hair that day.
Good lad. Okay, and have a wash. Don't forget to have a wash. We'll talk to you next week. Good to talk, as always.
Take care, top man.